Hello, everybody. Welcome to the HC Live event you all have been waiting for. We are talking all about how to get promoted and hired with some of the best career coaches and recruiters and job professionals in Houston. So as you all will get to meet them in a second, I want to introduce you to them and start off with some housekeeping items. And in the meantime, I want to make sure that you all kind of get a feeling for our guests. Sue Burnett is the founder and president of Burnett Specialists and Choice Specialists. She's got offices all around Texas. The company was established 50 years ago. It's one of the largest recruiting firms, employee-owned firms in the U.S. And we also have Levi Carter. He serves as the CEO and partner of Sterling Staffing, a firm specializing in medical professional placements. So for any of you all who are medical professionals, definitely start sending your questions in now. And then last but not least, we have Elizabeth Hoff, the founder of Hoff Executive Coaching. She's a Rice grad, with tons of experience with placing everyone under the sun. So first and foremost, we want to know where in Houston or in Texas or in the US you are tuning in from. I know for myself personally, I am reporting live from the Houston Chronicle offices here off of the highway in the Galleria area. I know Sue is in West Chase and Stephen is in Sugar Land. And then we have Elizabeth not too far down the road from us in the Upper Kirby area. So start, like I said, dropping your questions in the comments below. We will take a few, as many as we can in the process of the last half of the panel. So I kind of want to start seeing, Sue, can you hear me? Let's see here. Might be having a bit of a technical difficulty here. Let's see. All right, so let's see. I am making sure that you all can see our panelists. 1 second, I will be right back.
Okay, I got it.
All righty, so perfect. I teed them all up for you guys. I'm so sorry about that. But the great news is I've got all the little introductions out of the way. I already told them where you were, Stephen, Sue, and Elizabeth.
Nice.
So I've stopped shy of telling them that, that Stephen was a native Houstonian and probably beat all of us in terms of street cred. But in fairness, Sue was born in Galveston and Elizabeth also, went to Rice. So I've been in Houston as well for a decade. So I think we've got it covered, but we've got plenty of people in. Like I said, start letting us know where in Houston or where in Texas you're watching us from, and start sending in your questions for all of our panel experts. And we are a few minutes in, so I will go ahead and get us kicked off and started. First question, really, to set the scene, goes to Sue. And Sue, we talked a little bit about the current job market. What can people in specifically Harris County expect right now, just at a small and a big level?
Well, the job market right now is very good. The economy is good. Houston has actually added a lot of jobs, and we still have very low unemployment. So I think that the job market is great.
Awesome. Stephen and Elizabeth, you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. The job market is going great. I mean, we're expected to add on over 70,000 jobs in this month alone. I think, obviously Houston is growing like crazy. Sorry, and not in this month in 2025, 76,000 jobs. But definitely the industries that are growing as well are healthcare, construction, government, restaurants, and bars. So anything that's related to taking care of the population growth that we're seeing is a hot area to get into. So definitely we are in a great city for employment.
Yeah, I would just quickly add, it's the best time to find a job is right after election, not before an election, so that uncertainty is gone. And I think we are fortunate to live in this great city.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And so, Stephen, to your point, talk to me about resumes. We talked a lot about how to stand out. What are some common pitfalls that you all are seeing specifically within your industry?
Yeah, so I think we talked about this a little bit briefly. I think right now with the advancement of AI, and I definitely encourage the use of AI when you're creating a resume, but it can help you and hurt you at the same time. And so being very careful about the way you prepare a resume if you're going to use AI. And I know that right now there's an opportunity for you to be as specific as to upload a job description that you're trying to apply for, upload your current resume, and a lot of AI tools will create that custom resume for you. But the key to that is using prompts to make sure that you're as custom as possible to who you are and making sure the resume reads like you. Believe you me, people know when a resume is AI generated. If you just plop something in and grab the first thing that comes out, you're not going to get that job. They're going to know. And so it has to be authentic. And, the key thing about resumes is having achievements on your resume, very quantifiable achievements. That's not the kind of stuff that you're going to get out of AI. You've got to be able to put that in and layer in why you specifically are a good fit for that job. But the beauty of a resume now is that everyone should know your resume should be customized to fit the job that you're going for. You cannot have one resume that fits all. It has to be customized to the job.
Stephen, I would add too, depending on your age and your experience level, I've seen some younger people do resumes that sound like they're robots. And I think it is important to put your skills and the software programs that your achievements, to Stephen's point. As you get older, make sure that you make it, in my opinion, a little more personal. As you get into upper management and beyond, people hire people, not robots. So put in something that says who you are, and that does vary by age and level of job that you're going for.
Right. We talked about the hobbies and interests section. I know that was an interesting thing that came up. Elizabeth, can you talk a little bit more about why you would versus not want to include a hobbies and interest section?
Yeah, my personal opinion is you want something that they can really grab you and feel you a little bit. Please do not say that you like to travel. And please do not talk about your dog. So put in something, though, that does encapsulate you. Again, if you're middle management and above, I think if you're lower level, and I think Sue's got the best experience here, that maybe you want to cut back a little bit on the personal part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't encourage it really. I think that if you've got something interesting that you do, perhaps organizations that you're in, I think that's great. But I think that if people are putting in that they like to exercise or run or whatever, I find that that's really not pertinent to the job. I also think that, you want to make sure that you're proofreading your resume. One of the big errors we see is people sending resumes that have a lot of errors in them, and the clients pick up on that, and they don't want to see people that have a lot of errors in their resume. I also think that, you've got to make sure that if you're applying for jobs, that you've changed your voicemail message and made it professional, and not if it's, very casual, that you want to change it. And also, if you just have like the answering machine answer it, you need to have a voicemail message that says your name and please leave a message, so that the employer will know that they've gotten the right number. So I think that's very important. We, you know, as far as resumes, I would avoid, I think if you want to do a summary of your experience, that's great. But the objective of what type of job you're looking for can be limiting, because you may be applying for a job that is different than what is on your objective. And then when the client looks at your objective, they go, oh, well, they aren't really even interested in a job like this. So you've got to be very careful about the objective, and don't just put that you are looking for a company where you can grow. That is really, no one wants to read that. And so everyone wants that, obviously, but that shouldn't be a part of the resume. I also see resumes that are 3 and 4 pages, and we really encourage that you keep a resume to 1 or 2, because employers really don't spend much time. They scan the resume, and what they look at is titles, dates of employment first. And that's really something that's important, is that you make sure that the titles of your jobs are not strange, but that they will fit for what people are looking for. Also, keywords. A lot of electronic systems now search for keywords. So you need to make sure that the titles fit the type of job that you're really looking for. I also think that you shouldn't go back more than 15 or 20 years. I think that when people are going back 30 and 40 years in their resume, it's too much, and it also dates you, truthfully. And I think that if you've had any accomplishments, you need to highlight those accomplishments.
I think, Sue, just to capitalize on that, I think younger people these days, it's exactly what you said, that a point that resonates with me, where they put in, I want to grow.
Yeah.
That does signal to employers that you're a little bit more selfish. And I think it does tend to be an age-specific thing. I don't know where young people are getting this, but you wanna signal to the company that it's about the company, it's about the company's goals, and that you want to contribute to the success of the company, not that the company is there to help you. And it looks selfish if you say, I want to grow, I want to learn, what educational opportunities are there for me? And that will kind of make or break you, especially in early career. Stephen, I think you feel strongly about that as well.
I do. Yeah, totally agree with you, Elizabeth. That's so important, especially in the medical industry, because there's so many people, they're very proud of their achievements, of their licenses, of their certifications. But sometimes that confidence comes off as arrogance, and you know that it kind of can portray out in a resume or even in an interview. So you have to be careful about that as well. So I agree with you, Elizabeth. And Sue, as you were talking, you made me think of one other pet peeve of mine that I wanted to mention on the resume, and that is your email address. If your contact email is anything besides your name, and I could think of a number of inappropriate emails, and I can just tell you, it is very distracting. It seems like it's a little thing, but if your email is something inappropriate, that is a bad idea.
Yes. I also think you shouldn't have your university address. Making up an email is free. If you went to U of H, do not have a, uh.edu, make up an email and make it look professional.
Absolutely.
Add in some numbers and you're good to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I also think that if you're applying to a certain position, if you can customize your resume to that position so that it will show that you really fit that position. A lot of people have multiple resumes. They may have a resume for one type of a position and then another type of a position, so that they'll, highlight that particular type of thing. So it's fine to customize your resume and change it up a little bit and not just have one standard resume for every single type of position that you're applying for.
I have a great story on that. I had a CFO who was a client, just a wonderful guy, and his resume was just exemplary. It wasn't missing periods. It was structured. There was nothing wrong with the resume. And when we got together for coaching services, I said, well, this is so great. You know, you want to make a change. You want to get a new job. He goes, yeah, I actually want to transition out of finance and get into marketing. I said, look, I can help you get a job and you're going to get a great CFO job, because he wrote the job very directly as to what he'd accomplished in the finance roles. But you need to tweak, not lie, but tweak the resume more toward the direction you're going as opposed to your past. So we just worked on the language. We kept it, again, 100% truthful, never lie on a resume. And he ended up being able to parlay those words into something more meaningful for a marketing role.
I have a question. Specifically, we talked a little bit about this, but Sue, can you talk about what the difference is between a job change and a career change? Because I think that all of these are applicable to both, and maybe Houston more than other markets. You could probably do job change maybe as easily as a career change. And I know Elizabeth will have quite a bit on that, but Sue, what's the main difference between
the main difference in a
jobs
career change is that let's say that you're a teacher or an accountant, but you've decided you don't want to do that anymore. You want to make a big change, just like Elizabeth made the comment about this man. So that is changing your whole career. A job change is you're going from one accountant position to another accountant position. And there is a big difference. And in Houston, even though our job market is good, it's not easy to change careers if you've been doing something for a long time, particularly if you want the same amount of money. And that becomes a real challenge. So, you know, I would be interested in what Elizabeth says about making career changes, because honestly, in our business, we will take an accountant and place them in an accountant position, but we're not going to be placing accountants in marketing roles.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Sue, that's a great point. I know a younger woman who wanted to go from tech sales into human resources. And what I had to coach her on was making sure that they believed, the company believed she wanted to make a transition. And she was stumbling a little bit. The way that she ultimately got into human resources was by taking a certification course. It didn't cost a lot of money, but it was a signal to the other companies that she was serious about moving into human resources.
Yeah.
And which one would you say, Stephen, is easier to do, if either one, or are they both extremely difficult in medical?
In terms of, I'm sorry.
In terms of if they want to change jobs and say for medical accounting to another medical accounting position versus a medical accountant who maybe wants to go into an HR role and change roles completely and entirely.
I think the change can be blended, right? So the advice or what we always see is that someone who may want to leave, for your example, from accounting position to a medical position or vice versa. If that person already works in a hospital and is trying to move from medical to accounting, then obviously going to that same hospital and speaking with the accounting department about their aspirations, you're kind of blending, you're in the same company, but just a different position in that same industry, if you will, and that makes the transition easier. And then as the example that was given, now you're just taking a certification, and it's a little bit easier for you to make that move. But I would caution about making it, and I think everyone has a reason to make career changes. Things happen in your life, and you just say, "Hey, this isn't for me," and I don't want to discourage that. But when we talk about a job change, most people leave jobs because of their manager, not because of the company, not because of money. It's because of the management, right? And they feel in a stagnated place. There's no room for growth. It feels it's a toxic environment. And sometimes that company makes someone believe that they need to make a career change when it's not the career, it's just the company that you work for. So my advice would be first take a analysis of your environment. Make sure that maybe going to a different company, a different role, even within the career that you're in, is not the best move for you. But moving into a different career is a challenge, and there's going to be some heavy lifting that you have to do up front in terms of studying, doing some volunteer work, if you will, doing some things to try to get those things put on your resume. And it's not easy, but it's doable, but it's just not easy.
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge is money, because if you're used to a certain amount of money, making a career change, you may not have that same
Absolutely.
income, and that can be a real challenge. And so the other thing is your network, talking to friends that you know, and sometimes if they've got friends in a company where they would be willing to give you a chance to do something, that helps also. I think that you always, if you're looking for a job and you're on the street, so to speak, you're not working, you want to, I would post it on LinkedIn that you're actively looking for a job. I would post it on Facebook that you're actively looking for a job. I would let everyone know that you're looking, because sometimes they might know of a position that would be good for you, and you wouldn't know about that otherwise.
That's right.
I'll throw a bit of a curveball just because Sue brought up a good point about posting on LinkedIn that you're looking. Elizabeth, wouldn't that maybe be a risk for someone if they currently are holding a job and they don't maybe
Oh
want
yeah,
to show
I'm
all
not
their
saying
cards?
do it if you're working. No, this is if you're not working. No, if you're working, I wouldn't put it on LinkedIn that you're
Okay.
looking.
Yeah. Be very
Well,
careful about your settings if you're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, I was gonna say, I think you can set to looking, but without making it public, right?
But
And so
I'll add, Colleen, that
go ahead.
the number one thing that I get asked from an employer after I get a resume, well, not even asked, the first thing they're going to do is look to see if you have a LinkedIn page. If it's a professional position, having a professional LinkedIn profile
Yes.
is so important. Anyone that's in a professional position, you need to have a professional LinkedIn profile. So the first thing they're going to do is look at your resume, and then they're going to look at your LinkedIn profile, and then they're going to your social media pages. And so if you want to make sure that you don't release anything that is damaging, you want to make sure you make your social media pages private. If not, you need to be very careful, because it's all open knowledge. Everything that you post on social media can be found, and I guarantee you that they're going to research you in every way that they can. It's just open knowledge, and that's what everyone does.
Yeah, and I will say that I've had people who have not gotten a job because they have looked at their Facebook or LinkedIn and decided that they were not professional enough. It's a problem.
It's
It
a
really
problem. Sue, you are right. I think hide your Facebook posts is a general rule. Do not take photos as you age with cocktails in your hands, like ever. The other thing is that I think women on LinkedIn, their photos tend to look too social and maybe too casual. If you're going to have a LinkedIn picture, you can certainly look happy and approachable, but have conservative clothes on and do not look like you're posing for your
a
significant other.
party. Yeah.
It's a real problem. And if you're a guy and you're a big guy, you want to look a little more smiley so you don't look kind of scary. So you just want to really make that photo just different than social media.
Yeah.
100%.
And Elizabeth, I wanted to ask you specifically, aside from having a great LinkedIn page, great resume, say you have all the bells and whistles, general foundations covered, what specifically can job seekers do that really set them apart, that gets them from just a resume paper name to landing that interview?
Yeah, I think this goes back to my thought about not looking selfish. It's really all about the company. I encourage people, and remember, the resume is only a reason to get an interview, right? Don't be such a perfectionist that you have 18 perfect resumes, but you never applied for a job. Your job is not to work on the resume. It's to get the resume into the hands of people to get to the interview. So I think if you're going to get the interview and you have an interview upcoming, it is vital that you look at the company website or anything you can find about the company and ask yourself, what is the company signaling about themselves? Is it that it's a fun place? Is it serious? Is it growth mentality? Is it something that you can identify with? But before the interview, maybe it's only 30 minutes before, go to their website, find one interesting thing. I don't care what it is. It's where their last meeting was held, where their next trade show is going to be, how they emphasize their culture, the latest thing that the CEO said. Find one thing, and that's your entree to kind of calm yourself down in the very first words with the person you meet there. You know, the website is a signal of who they are, and you should bring it up in the interview.
And I agree with you so much, Elizabeth. And then going back to LinkedIn, leveraging LinkedIn. I mean, right now you can go out and search every company. You can see who works for that company. You can try to contact individuals that are at that company now, find out why they're hiring for that position. Why did that person leave? Get as much information that you can. You can include that in your resume to a certain degree, but you can also include that when you go into the interview. But being as prepared as possible. I mean, honestly, half of the people that I interview have never done any research on our company, right? And it's embarrassing. It doesn't make any sense. At least, like Elizabeth said, go to the website and get just general information. If you just do that, you're going to be 50% of ahead of most of the people out there.
And I think you should prepare questions that before you go into an interview about what you are looking for. In other words, don't ask about vacation or the insurance. Don't ask about the benefits, but ask about, you know, the job and what type of person is going to be a better fit for that particular position. But have some questions prepared, because if someone says to you, do you have any questions? And you say no, they don't like that. They like to have somebody ask them some questions.
Correct. So one of my favorite questions to prep people for is a question that's posed in the negative. So let's say that Sue is interviewing me and then she says, hey, Elizabeth, do you have any questions? I like to say, well, Sue, who would be a bad fit for this role? Because it forces Sue to say, well, someone that's not a team player and who communicates poorly and who's an introvert or an extrovert and doesn't come to the office, all of a sudden you know what they're looking for. But if you say, who's a good fit for the company, they're gonna, I don't know, then it's all the usual things.
Yeah, that's
an
interesting twist.
I like to put it in the negative because the interviewer will go, it's interesting. And what they'll end up doing is reflecting on the last person that was in the role. And that person either was great and got promoted or got fired. And then you know what you're up against and what they're trying to find. So think about that. Like, who would be a bad fit, Sue, for this role? Who would not make it at the company? Put it in the negative and it'll pique their interest.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And on that note, we're right about the halfway mark. And, you know, we've touched about everything from resumes to etiquette and what to do, what not to do. And I already see a ton of questions rolling in. If you have not already asked your question, drop it now below. We're going to start getting to them right now. And the first one I saw immediately was, how do you approach ageism in the job hiring process? And we've talked about nowadays, people from 25 even to 65 are looking for jobs. So ageism, is it something you deal with, Sue?
Yes, I will say that I encourage people not to put the year that they graduated from college. And that's why I'm saying to go back 15, 20 years, because the more you go back, the more that it dates you. So, I would love to sit and say that companies don't care, but unfortunately, there is some concern sometimes about age. And so I would make sure that you're not, you know, definitely they're being able to tell how old you are. If you're over 50, I mean, if you're under 50, it's not really a problem.
The good news, if you consider that ageism is discriminating, for lack of a better term, on older people, I think it cuts both ways. I've had older clients who I'm like, trust me, someone will hire you because they know you have work ethic,
Right.
and you want to come to the office. Because what I see with a lot of big companies is they really have a hard time hiring young people because young people don't want to come to the office, and
Right.
people are returning to the office. So regardless of your age, you want to signal that you have work ethic and you're willing to come to the office, or
Right.
your opportunity, particularly in Houston, Texas, if you're not willing to come to the office, you're down to a very narrow scope. So if you're
Yes,
older and there
we've
is
definitely, yes, we've definitely seen a decline in the number of positions that are remote. There are still a lot of hybrid, but we are seeing also companies that are saying that they want more than just, 2 days or 3 days a week in the office. And we still have a lot of applicants that are spoiled and want to stay at home and want to be in a remote position. But I can be honest, it's not there. Those jobs are not out there like they were 3 and 4 years ago.
Yeah. I'll add on in terms of ageism. The two things that I think are the biggest fears for companies as it pertains to age is going to be technology, your ability to keep up with the technology, and your ability to keep up with the pace, right? So those are the two fears that people have when they think about age. So I think on your resume, you have to highlight first and foremost your technology and make sure that you're able to say that I am an expert in all of Microsoft Office. I've used all the different ERP tool or EMRs or whatever the different SAP, whatever those tool sets are that fit your industry. You need to be able to speak about that. And then in terms of pace, I think we have to, as older adults, you have to make the effort of saying, hey, I work smarter and not harder, right? Or just being able to say, I'm using my wisdom to be able to achieve, be more progressive and more efficient than my younger counterparts may. But I think those are the two fears that you have to guard against, and just be prepared to answer those questions and highlight those somewhere on your resume if you can.
All right. Crystal in Cyprus is asking, I'll ask Elizabeth this first. What's the best way to tell your current manager that you are applying for a promotion without making it sound like you are not happy with your current job, especially if you do not get that promotion?
Yeah, I think honesty is the right policy. You do not want your manager to know that you're trying to get a job behind his or her back. That's not good. However, how you say it is everything. You definitely want to look like you're still engaged. So let's just say that Stephen is my manager. I might sit with Stephen and say, hey, Stephen, I've been here a year and a half. I just want to let you know I have loved what we're doing. I'm going to continue to give it my all. I would like to grow. I have more to offer the company. Are there bigger projects that you can get me involved in? Is there more exposure I could have? I'm not looking to get promoted right now or to do anything different, but just a heads up that I've got more to give, and I really want to have a bigger impact at the company. So always phrase it as a positive. And again, it's not about you, it's about the company.
I love that.
Absolutely. Stephen, someone's asking, is it worth it to pay for the premium LinkedIn profile versus the generic profile? Is it worth it?
No, not to me. It's a simple no. No, I think unless you're a recruiter or you're in sales or something like that, I just don't think it's worth it.
I don't think for the average person it's worth it.
No.
Okay, next question. When changing industries with little experience, how do you get recruiters to take a chance on you? I'll take Sue with that first.
I'm just going to be honest. That's a problem. Because once again, we're in the business to place people, and we're not really career consultants. I just want everyone to understand that personnel services are placing people, but we are paid a fee, and we're not paid by the applicant, we're paid by the client. So what the client is looking for is someone who will be a fit for their job. And so, Elizabeth is much more of a career consultant where she can help people find things. But if you're applying to personnel services, they're not the right place to go to make a career change.
Okay. Stephen, this one's for you. What do you find is the average turnaround time in applications and hearing back for potential interviews? This person works in healthcare administration, primarily for nonprofits, and can sometimes wait for up to 2 months to hear anything. Is that normal? Is that average?
So no, I think it does depend on the industry. I think not for profit may be a little bit different. I can tell you in medical, we can post a job, a job description on Indeed and get 500 candidates in 3 days, right? It's insane, right? So and the speed at which we want to fill those positions. I mean, I think typically we're trying to fill a position within a couple of weeks, but it depends upon the level of the position and the industry and what's going on. I think not-for-profit is a little bit more unique because you're trying to find someone who has a skill set, but specifically in not-profit. So that's a little different. So I think 1 to 2 months may be kind of okay in that area. But Elizabeth, you probably have a little bit of a better idea because you kind of do this every day.
Yeah, I think it varies. You know, I think grit wins. If a company takes 2 months to call you back, it's just they're thinking about other things. It's not about you, it's about them. Don't take it personally, just as the process.
Absolutely.
All
Follow
right.
up though. Definitely follow up. Don't
Yeah.
just let it sit there. Follow up and say, hey, I'm really interested in this position. Just wanted to know, have you made a decision yet? It could be budget wise. They may have pulled the trigger too quickly and thought they were ready, but weren't quite ready. And so it's a good point, Elizabeth. Yeah.
Well, but it
Stay
could be
engaged.
filled. It
Yeah,
could be
could be.
filled,
Mhm.
to
Absolutely.
be honest.
But you don't know until you ask.
Yeah, you
until
don't know.
until you
That's right.
follow up.
Yes. Someone's asking, is it advisable to showcase each and every single certification on your LinkedIn profile, assuming it's relevant?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Because of keywords, to Sue's point earlier, keywords.
Right. But I think Elizabeth made a good point about saying, but if you're trying to go from this industry that you have all of these certifications in to marketing, for instance, then maybe not, right? Because then it seems like, oh, this guy spent all of this time and energy in making himself the perfect candidate for engineering. Why would he even consider so? This is crazy, you know? So
Great points.
Okay, another healthcare sector questions for Stephen. How do you overcome no recent experience in the healthcare sector?
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think the big thing, I mean, the reality is that you're gonna have to start in an entry level position. You're gonna have to just find a position to jump in and get your feet wet. And you've got to convince someone that you've got the grit and the passion and the work ethic to come in and really make a difference. And they're just gonna have to like you because of who you are, right? Because they're gonna have to give you a chance. It's gonna be really tough. I think you have to network quite a bit, you know, ask around, see if a friend knows a friend who would be able to do you a favor. It's going to be a little bit more gritty to find a position, to be honest with you. And so, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but it's possible.
All right, we have someone asking about a 2-year gap in their field of digital strategy. I'll ask this question to Sue first. Should they exclude gig jobs that they've had in the last 2 years to show no gap, or should they exclude them?
No, I think that they should always put gig jobs. I mean, in other words, if they have been working during that 2-year period, then you would want to show, but you would want to show it as a contract position.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with working contract. Clients won't be, put off by that. But it's better than not working at all for 2 years, to be honest. So if you've been working during that time, you should definitely put those down, but just indicate contract.
Excellent.
And group those together as well. Don't have them as individual lines that make it seem like you jumped around. Just kind of have one title that says contract work or whatever the general
And
title
you could
is.
list the companies where you
And
worked
list-
contract.
Exactly.
Good point.
And you know,
Okay,
hiring managers are still people. If you've had a legit reason to have 2 years off because you're caring for your father who had cancer, I'm not sure you want to put that on the resume, but be honest about it in the interview. I mean, we all, hiring managers are people too that have challenging times. You don't want to probably say you've been darting off to Australia and gallivanting around the world, but if it's a legit 2 years off, be honest about it.
No, I know, I agree with that, but I mean, I'm just saying that if you've actually been working during that period, then you would want to put those jobs down. But yes, if you were caring for or like a woman who's had a child and decided to stay at home for 2 years, well, then that's fine too.
Yeah.
Okay, we have someone saying they were recently laid off from an oil and gas company. They've applied to a few postings for petroleum engineers, but they've been quiet on responses. What's the best way to make a career change to an adjacent position in their case, a petroleum engineer applying to be a pipeline engineer?
Well, I'm not the best person to ask about that, but I mean, once again, I don't know the difference between a pipeline engineer and the other. So I don't know, to be honest, but I mean, obviously engineers are engineers. And so, you know, if you've got the oil and gas experience, I wouldn't think that it would be a huge transition, but I don't know.
I think tailor your LinkedIn, put the appropriate certifications, educational degrees, and then kind of what we discussed before, tailor your resume to where you're going and how those skills might transform. But honestly, in the end, it's grit. It's grit. Keep going. Just keep applying.
But if you're a petroleum engineer, you're gonna, there is a job out there for you. So, I mean, I would definitely say that you just need to really keep applying to a lot of different positions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, on resumes, should accomplishments be listed as bullet points or full sentences with keywords and phrases?
Sue?
Well, I think that accomplishments, you know, you can have it as part of that job, or you can even list it at the top under a summary for accomplishments. I've seen a lot of resumes where people have had accomplishments that they saved the company a certain amount of money or whatever. And so I think that it can be done both ways. But if your resume is set up in bullet points, then it would be a bullet point. If your resume is set up in paragraph style, then I would probably have it in paragraph style.
Yeah, I'd add that all in all, you just want to make sure that people, whoever's reviewing the resume, can see the information that you're trying to convey as quickly and easily as possible. Because if I'm the manager and I'm going through 100 resumes, I need to clearly and quickly see those keywords, those achievements, those accomplishments that make sense for the hire, and it's going to highlight that this person is the person that I want to bring in for an interview. And so for me, I don't personally like the paragraph type of resumes. It's a bit jumbled. And if I'm going through a lot of resumes, it's a lot to kind of read and go through. You just want to make it as easy as possible for someone to read and pull out information from your resume. But it does depend on the level of position that you're going after.
Excellent. Another one, how do you feel about updating your resume on a regular basis to job boards like Indeed or Monster?
What does that mean? Do you mean like when you're working and updating your resume?
Like if someone's applying and basically trying to cast a wide net, so they pretty regularly go in and update their job board posting so that they put on Indeed or .com or monster.com their resume, so that they basically constantly update it so people see it more.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, I mean, if it's for the same job, I wouldn't recommend constantly, you know, reapplying for the same job over and over. But if it's for other jobs, I mean, I think it's fine. But I mean, like in our website, people will apply for a job, but we don't want them to apply 10 times for the same job. You know, that's a problem.
Yeah, I think the algorithm and Indeed, and if you're working as a hirer or recruiter, it's going to highlight and tell you if someone just updated their resume recently, and that's a good thing actually, because if there's 100 resumes that you're trying to look at and you see that someone just updated their resume, then to me that means, okay, this person really wants a position, and let me call them very quick because they're going to be ready to move, right? Versus someone who hasn't updated their resume for the last 100 days, right? So there is with technology, I mean, Indeed, all of these different job boards, they have a lot going behind the scenes, and there is value in keeping a fresh resume, and it definitely is highlighted to the recruiter behind the scenes.
Excellent. Okay, next question. I have someone from the World Services for the Blind organization in Little Rock. They're basically asking, they get concerns from job seekers that are blind or visually impaired, and that they encounter a lot of hesitation and fear from employers. What are the biggest misconceptions about hiring blind professionals, or how can job seekers address them while advocating to be accommodated for either visually impaired or maybe other handy capable necessities?
You know, I'm going to tell you something that will really surprise you. I've been in this industry for 54 years, and I have never had a blind person apply to us in 54 years. I would love to really give some real suggestions here, but I've just never had anyone that was blind come to our office and apply.
Mm-hmm.
I
You know,
don't,
I don't have a lot of experience with it either, but I consider it, we all have something that makes it challenging for someone to hire us. You've just got to prove that you can overcome that in what they need. So, you know, if you are not a fast typer or you're missing a left hand, okay, it's something that you need to own, but you need to prove that you can do the job that they're asking for. So I would just put it in the same bucket, that it's something that you need to prove to them that you're going to be okay with that job.
yeah.
And
I
is
think
there
so.
anything, I'm so sorry, Sue, I was going to say, is there anything on employers nowadays that are trying to be more inclusive of people that maybe are with different abilities, either mentally, physically, whatever it may be?
Well, I mean, it's against the law to discriminate against people with disabilities. So, I mean, do I see an outreach from clients saying, you know, send us disabled people? No, not really. But I mean, once again, I think that companies, if you can perform the duties, then they are definitely going to, you know, give you an opportunity.
Yes. And the future is bright with accessibility. I mean, you can have, you know, you can speak and it can type for you. So
Yes.
it's only getting better for those of us with some disability.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, pivoting to a question about cover letters. How do you shape cover letters and keep information relevant so that when you're shortlisted quickly, ideally, or are cover letters even needed nowadays?
You know, I'm not a big fan of cover letters, but Elizabeth, what do you think?
You know, I think you need to stand out. I like cover letters because sometimes the cover letter can get disengaged from the resume. So I like them, but you got to be different than other people. You got to capture someone's attention. Don't be boring like, hi, I'm applying for this job. I noticed that you posted. Again, go to the website, find something and make it personal. Or maybe it's about the person that was the recruiter for that company. I found you on LinkedIn. I connected with you. I noticed that you went to Purdue. So did I. I mean, find something.
I think that would be good.
Them.
But if you're applying to a personnel service,
Correct.
We don't really care about cover letters.
Correct. I think that's a great point, Sue. Maybe that's the difference in a company.
We don't care about them. If you're applying to us, just upload your resume. We're not going to look at that cover letter.
Correct. Great point.
What this person is asking, what if your greatest accomplishments were related to sensitive situations within the organization? Should you publish them? Should you make that public? Or and basically they're talking about in regards to financial risk and compliance space.
Oh,
no.
Or how do you word that how do you put that on a resume, Elizabeth?
I think that would be, yeah. I think that's, if it's sensitive information, I don't think it should be on a resume.
Yeah, but look, I think if you're going to put down chief compliance officer and you're going for chief compliance officer, they don't expect you to put details and quantifiable facts. You know, help the company avoid 18 lawsuits. I mean, no, you're not putting that. So use your judgment.
Excellent. Okay, to Stephen, I'll ask this one. Is it too aggressive to show up in person to apply to a job, or are job boards the only suggested way to go?
Okay, that's a tough one.
Well, I want to take that one. I want to take that one if I can.
Sue.
Okay. Here's what I would suggest. I would suggest that if you see that there is a job at a company that you're interested in, this would go for your cover letter. You could do a cover letter with your resume, put it in a manila envelope, and hand deliver it to the front desk. Put on there the HR department, confidential, and they will open that up. And then they will look at it and they will see the cover letter and they will see your resume. That will get you noticed more than applying online. But showing up and expecting to be interviewed is not going to work. So if you just deliver the resume and just drop it off, I mean, you could act like you're the delivery person. I don't care, but don't act like you're going to see someone.
I agree with you, Sue. That's exactly what I was going to say. Just don't try to talk to the hiring manager or get back to HR or whatever. But definitely, if you're just going to leave that resume, absolutely, it's going to get handed back to someone.
It
At
will.
least
They'll see it.
absolutely.
They'll see it.
So
It will
that's
get
good.
noticed.
Yeah, and Sue and Stephen, we talked about this. If you're going for the interview, remember, you're getting interviewed from the moment you pull into that parking lot.
That's
Do
right.
not put your lipstick on. Do not be fussing with your hair. Someone is seeing you in the parking lot. And then if you go in, for goodness sakes, be nice to the front desk person. Be nice in the elevator. You do not know who you are riding with. And so if you're going to hand deliver a resume, you be very nice to that front desk person.
Yes.
And you expect, put on your makeup and fix your suit down the street. But the second you're in the parking lot, you're getting interviewed.
I just want to say something real quickly that happened to me. I was visiting a client one day and I was sitting in the lobby waiting for them to come out. And I saw an applicant come in and they said, I'm here for an interview. And they said, oh, here, will you please fill out this application? Well, it was a man. He went over and he sat there and I could tell he was struggling with his male ego. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
Okay. And he got up and he walked over after about 3 or 4 minutes and handed the clipboard back to the receptionist and said, I'm not interested. And y'all, it is a requirement by some companies that you fill out an application. So don't think that you're too good to do this. But it was, I think for him, it was like an insult that he was going to have to fill out an actual application. So I'm going to tell you, that does happen. So.
And while you're in that lobby, if you're young, do not sit on your phone. Look up, be nice to the desk person.
Yes.
Put your phone away and notice the world and be kind.
That's good.
Great advice. And on that point, we are a couple of minutes away from the end. We are wrapping up. We still have a couple of questions. If you have not gotten yours in, drop them in the chat. We're going to try and get as many in as possible. So last fair warning, get them in. Someone was asking about when networking doesn't work or basically short of, when the resume doesn't work and you're trying everything, what organizations in Houston or networks or meetups specifically have you all heard within your industries that are really good and maybe networking is really successful in those, or what do you recommend? Stephen, I'll start with you.
Yeah, obviously there's a number of organizations depending on your industry, and I think you can. It's so easy to Google and find all of those different groups. But I think I would more encourage the LinkedIn professional groups, right? Going into LinkedIn and even social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of these different or social media accounts have networking groups that are there. And it doesn't take, you don't have to go physically meet with someone, although there's nothing wrong with that and going to network and going out to happy hours and things of that nature. But you can accomplish more by joining those networking groups online and continuing to go in and network with people. And I think that's the best way to get more bang for your buck, if you will.
I think if you're an A&M or a University of Texas or Baylor or any of these Texas schools, if you're an alum, there's alum groups, and I would encourage you to go to some of those meetings, and also, as Stephen said, there's LinkedIn groups for those people, or Facebook groups, and join those groups and let them know that you're looking.
You have to ask, though. You cannot be. I feel like so many people, and I know that you may be an introvert, and this may not be what you do. But when you're looking for a job, you got to just get a little courageous and you got to ask. People won't know. You won't believe how many people may know someone that has the perfect position for you, and they just didn't know that you were looking for a role. You got to open your mouth. You got to use your network. You got to ask for help. So important.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Okay. Someone's asking for help on how to transfer out of a position of education into a new career. What type of career path would be best for a former teacher?
Well, that's a real challenge. We've had so many teachers who have come in and want to make a change. You know, I think that it depends upon what they've been teaching and what their interests are. But if you've been teaching elementary school, for example, I'm going to be honest, probably some type of an administrative type position might be best to start with. And because they do respect that you've, had these skills. But it's a very tough thing. And we see this as a real problem for teachers to make a change.
Okay, we'll take our last few questions, get them in. We have about 2-3 minutes left, and these are really good ones. The first one, is it appropriate for a stay-at-home mom looking for a job after 5 years to include any certifications or volunteer work on her resume?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. And related, someone else is asking, what are some tips to go back to work after a long break? Like, how do they officially transition? Do they brush up their LinkedIn, et cetera? Like real things to work on.
Well, yes. Number one, you do need to be on LinkedIn. And once again, as I've said, go on Facebook and tell all your friends that you are now going back to work and you're looking for a position. And if they know of anyone, then to please let you know. Then also LinkedIn, make sure that your LinkedIn profile has a good photo and that it has a good profile. And then, I would apply to positions. I mean, you've got to actively, looking for a job is a job. And so if you're really looking for a full-time job, you can spend full time just looking for that job. But I've had a lot of people that have said they're looking, and I say, well, what are you doing to look for a job? And they say, well, I look at, the postings, but they're not doing anything about it. They're just looking at them. So you've got to actively get out and really work at finding a job.
And if you've been out of the workforce for a little bit of time, take a class online.
Yeah.
It signals you're ready to do something.
I like that.
Okay, I think we're down to our final question. When is the right time to ask for a raise? Stephen, you go first.
So I think, obviously you're not just going to wake up one day and come into your employer and say, I want a raise, right? This is going to be something that you should have been planning for some time. You're going to have a track record of success. You're going to have be able to talk about the things that you brought to this company. What is the value that you brought? Looking at the market and comparing what you're making versus other people in the market, maybe other people in the company. You got to have your homework down. But I think Elizabeth talked about this, very clearly up front. It can't be about you. It's got to be about what you've done for the company. It can't be personal. Like I just, my marriage is changed and now I need more money to take care of my household and I just need a raise. I just don't have enough to take care of my bills. That's not going to cut it. It has to be professional, business oriented, the value that you brought to that organization, and you've got to be able to justify it.
Yeah, I agree.
And don't nag your boss. Do not have it where their boss is like, oh God, they're doing it again.
But make sure that you've been there for a period of time. I mean, don't walk in 3 months after you've been there
Exactly.
and say that you want a raise. I mean, most raises truthfully are not given until, unless they have told you up front, we will give you an increase after 6 months. That's one thing. But you know, don't expect a raise every 6 months. That's not
Right.
the way companies work.
Okay, well, on that note, we are in the last minute, so I will make sure to say thank you to our panelists, Elizabeth, Sue, Stephen. Thank you all so much, and thank you to everyone for attending and tuning in. We have our next HC Live event coming up next Thursday, all about knowing your rights, and we are very excited. So make sure to stay tuned. Look at the HoustonChronicle.com events website for all the info, and we will see you all soon. Good luck on the job hunt, everybody, and thank you again. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.